The ACC Preseason Media Poll is out, and once again, the media have picked the Duke Blue Devils. When will they ever learn?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, October 18th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining me at the place to get your North Carolina Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for making us your first listen or watch. And man, shout out to all the everydayers joining us, as well as the Locked On Tar Heels Discord members and the Locked On Tar Heels insiders. So glad you're all here. Let's get right into it. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Here's where we're going on this Friday as we head into a football weekend with no game. It's an open weekend for the Tar Heels. Kind of thank goodness, man. We need a reset after the 4-game losing streak. However, wanted to satiate your football thirst. And so there is a second show out today where I have a conversation with PFF's Max Chadwick. And we just talk kind of all things Carolina, where things are at right now, what's going wrong, what's right, some Mac Brown thoughts. So make sure you check that out as well. On this show, though, we're going to get into the ACC Preseason Poll, ACC Preseason Awards, try to figure out if they remembered RJ Davis this year, because seemingly they forgot him last year. I'll explain more later. But with all the Memphis game and everything else going on earlier in the week, wanted to wait till today, the wrap-up of the week, to kind of get to these award announcements so that we didn't miss any time unpacking the Memphis game. So we'll do all that. We'll talk about an ACC legend that kind of out of nowhere retired on Thursday afternoon, and the weekend whip around, all that coming up on the show. So as we get into this, for those of you who are watching, I'm going to actually pull up the ACC Preseason Media Poll, as well as it'll have the individual awards on it. For those of you listening, no worries. I'm going to talk us through it. I just wanted the visual for those who are watching so they can follow along that way. So we're going to start by talking about the preseason poll. I'll give you the whole thing in a little bit, but I want to start right at the top, which is really interesting. 3 of the 4 North Carolina schools in the ACC are voted 1, 2, and 3. And those are the only 3 schools, by the way, to receive a first place vote. 54 total voters in this poll. Wake Forest is 3rd with 1 first place vote. The Tar Heels are 2nd with 11 first place votes, and Duke leads the way with 42 first place votes, and everyone else after that. So I said it off the top, but at some point, the ACC media is going to have to learn that voting for Duke, because of all the talent they amass, is a fool's errand. Because it's one thing to amass a whole bunch of talent. It's another thing to have the actual best team sustained over the course of what was 16, now 8, and then 18, and now 20 conference games. And so while Duke amasses this young talent every year, we always talk about they win the offseason, and they're really happy about that. Hang all those banners. But they can't ever seem to bring it together for the entirety of the ACC season to do enough to win. Here's what I mean. And by the way, am I saying that Duke can't or won't win the regular season? Absolutely not. They're an incredibly talented team. They're probably the most talented team in the ACC. But are they the best team? It remains to be seen. What I am saying is that it is silly to continue to pick them over and over and over and over when recent history, and not small sample size recent history, has clearly shown that it doesn't hold up. So Brian Ives, who is a North Carolina grad, who works for ESPN, he's a producer like with the ACC Network and doing all sorts of great stuff. He tweeted out after the media poll came out this: Duke is the media's preseason pick to finish first in the ACC. The Duke Blue Devils have been picked to finish atop the ACC in 9 of the last 12 seasons. So this is going back to the 2013-14 season. All the way back to the 13-14 season, 12 seasons ago, including this season, Duke has been picked 9 of those 12 seasons. The only 3 they weren't were the 2015-16 season where Carolina was picked first and they finished first. 2020-21, Virginia was picked first and they finished first. And then the 2022-23 season when we were preseason number 1 and we shouldn't have been, Miami and Virginia actually shared the regular season conference title. So Duke has been picked the other 9 times out of the past 12 years. Now, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen this year yet. So the previous 8 times that Duke has been picked preseason number 1 in the ACC, they have actually been the regular season champs once in that time frame. And I'm not even talking about like outright and shared, like split it. Once they won it outright in the 2021-22 season. They were picked number 1 and they finished number 1. Outside of that, they have not done it going all the way back to 2013-14 when they were picked number 1. In fact, now I'm curious. I want to see where they actually did finish in each of those years. Let's do this in real time, shall we? This is fun for all of us. Standings. Let's go to ACC 2013-14. In 2013-14, Duke picked preseason number 1 and finished 3rd, tied for 3rd with the Tar Heels. 2014-15. That's going to get long and arduous. We're not actually going to go through and do that, but you get the point. At some point, we have to say, sure, Duke is very talented, but they're not proving that that talent can come together and beat older, more experienced teams. Like, for example, last year, as Carolina was in the midst of sweeping the Blue Devils, one of the complaints I heard a lot from Duke fans was, oh man, North Carolina's coming at us with 24 and 25-year-olds, and we can't do it because we're all young. Boo frickety who, you were celebrating all that young talent in the offseason when you were picked preseason number 1, but you didn't do it. So don't complain to me about the roster construction that you chose. You went with that, and you got to now lie in that bed. Hubert Davis, he made smarter roster decisions than you did, and it paid off. So if you don't like it, get an older roster that might not be quite as talented, but is a better team. And that's where we sit with Duke again. Yes, Cooper Flagg is going to be incredible. Several of these other guys as well. And they've got some veterans that they've brought in for roles. Tyrese Proctor's back. We'll see if he lives up to what he was supposed to be. Sure didn't last year. And can these transfers come in and help bring along these freshmen? If they can, Duke might be in good shape and they could win this thing. But they haven't proven it so far. Now, the other thing is, if it's not Duke, who would it be? Well, Carolina looks like a reasonable choice. I think Wake is going to be really good because they get Hunter Salas back again, who, if it's not RJ Davis or Cooper Flagg winning ACC preseason player or winning ACC player of the year, I think it might be Salas. Clemson has some guys back. Obviously, they lose PJ Hall, but they have some other guys back that are really good. Virginia, we don't know what they're going to be. We'll talk about why here in a little bit, but that's where things stand. So, look, ACC media, man, we got to do better. Don't just look at the talent that Duke has amassed and assume they're going to be the best team because it's not working out for you. Pick somebody else, for crying out loud. Okay, let me get off of that. But the other thing is, Field of 68, as part of their ACC preview, was talking about, like, put out at least a clip. It might have been a full show on Thursday. That the title was basically, who's the second best team in the ACC? And I respect those guys, particularly like John Fanta, all of them coming in. But who was on that? It was Fanta and Terrence Oglesby and Rob Doster. That was the other one, who started Field of 68. And so those guys are very knowledgeable, do a great job. But man, I just wholeheartedly disagreed with the premise of this segment where they're talking about who's the second best team in the ACC going to be, assuming that Duke's going to be number 1. I'm not willing to concede that point, that Duke is the best team in the ACC. I'm really honestly not. And they might be, but it's not this foregone conclusion that everyone seems to think it is. So first off, that I'm not willing to concede that Duke is number 1. So I disagree with the premise of the title of that show anyway. Secondly, even if Duke is number 1, I think that Carolina is a clear-cut number 2. So again, I think the premise of this whole thing is incorrect because Duke and North Carolina, in some order, to me, are clear-cut far and above the rest of the conference. And so I think it would be a better topic of conversation to say, who's going to be third in the ACC? Because I think that could be Wake. I think it could be Clemson. I think, if Louisville's talent all comes together around Pat Kelsey, there could be something there. But I just, all of this Duke brouhaha, man, I'm out on it. I know you are too, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but sometimes the man's just got to vent. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's be done with that. Because there is some good news. The media finally did get something right after failing to put RJ Davis on either the first or second team preseason ACC last year. Finally, apparently remembered that he plays in this league. And now not only did he make the first team ACC, but they voted him ACC Preseason Player of the Year. We'll get to that conversation about the individual awards, the first and second team preseason All ACC, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Hims. Guys, you ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom? Well, it's time you stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident knowing that everything's going to be just fine when you're in the mood. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. The products mentioned are chewable compound products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, we've just talked about the ACC Preseason Poll. I gave you the top 3, but we didn't go all the way through it. Let me just quickly rattle that off for those of you listening. We already talked 1, 2, 3 is Duke, Carolina, Wake. 4 and 5 are Clemson and Virginia. Following that is Miami, Pitt, NC State, and Louisville at 6 through 9. Remember, there's 18 teams, so that's the top half of the league. 10, Notre Dame, who I think will take a jump this year. Marcus Burton is back. He should be a stud as a sophomore. 11 is Syracuse. 12, Georgia Tech. 13, the first of the newcomers, SMU. 14th is Virginia Tech. Wild to see them that low. 15 is FSU. Even wilder to see them that low, even with getting Jameer Watkins back, who not only came back from the NBA, but didn't transfer. That's a coup for Leonard Hamilton. Great job there. Cal at 16, Stanford at 17, and unfortunately for BC, clocks in at number 18. As for the first and second team All ACC, again, 54 total people voted on this thing, and I was pleasantly surprised, and here's why. There was only one player that was unanimously voted onto one of these two teams, and it was not Cooper Flagg. I almost would have been willing to bet, like a Starbucks drink, nothing big, that Cooper Flagg would be the ACC Preseason Player of the Year, that he would be the unanimous choice to be on these teams, but he wasn't. RJ Davis, the lone player to be a unanimous selection for these teams. Well done, ACC media. I dogged on you earlier, but I'm proud of you, at least in this regard. Second and third on the list, also on the first team, receiving the exact same amount of votes, are Hunter Salas from Wake Forest and Cooper Flagg from Duke. So those are two of the other 4 players on the first team. I just mentioned him a second ago. Also making the first team is Notre Dame's Marcus Burton. So Notre Dame, projects as a bottom half of the league team, but Marcus Burton is that good that he was put on the first team. And then Miami's Nigel Pack gets 37 votes and rounds out the first team. So again, that's RJ Davis, Hunter Salas, Cooper Flagg, Marcus Burton from Notre Dame, and Nigel Pack from Miami. Hopefully the Canes can get back on it this year. We need this league to be better, you guys. Second team. And this kind of surprised me. I thought Burton would be on second team and this player would be on first team, but Ian Shefflin from Clemson falls 1 vote shy. He got 36. Nigel Pack was last on the first team with 37. But Ian Shefflin, the chef from Clemson, starts off the second team. His teammate, his backcourt player, Chase Hunter, gets 31 votes, also from Clemson. So you got 2 Clemson players starting off the second team. Jameer Watkins, who we just talked about, from Florida State. Bay Ndongo from Georgia Tech. You might remember he got hurt like early in the game Carolina played at Tech last year and had to leave. And then Ish Leggett from Pitt, who had some great moments last year. I think he's had some nice games against us, if I remember. Maybe in that ACC tournament game where we had to come back, he played pretty well. But that's the second team. Ian Shefflin and Chase Hunter from Clemson, Jameer Watkins from Florida State, Bay Ndongo from Georgia Tech, and Ish Leggett from Pitt. No big qualms with either of those teams. The thing for me is 18 teams and you only got 10 slots, man. And so it's hard to put that together and figure it out. And I was shocked that any team got to, and especially the fact that it was Clemson and not, I figured Duke would have like 7 of the 10 players. No, not really. But you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like that's how that kind of voting goes. But ultimately, probably my biggest takeaway from these first and second team all ACC preseason teams is that RJ is the lone unanimously voted in player. So I was pleased with that. The other things that are voted on is ACC preseason player of the year and ACC rookie of the year. And these are not surprises, although the rookie of the year is not a surprise. With player of the year, it might be like, I think in CBS Sports thing, they had Cooper Flagg not only rookie of the year, but ACC preseason player of the year. So thankfully, the ACC media didn't go that way. Again, 54 votes. RJ got 40 of the ACC player of the year votes. Cooper Flagg, 10. Chase Hunter got 3. And Maxime Reynaud from Stanford got 1 vote. I'm imagining that probably came from a Stanford media member. But I will say, it kind of made me sad because that was one of the players there were rumors earlier in the offseason that was somebody that Carolina was in conversation with. And obviously another player that the Tar Heels didn't get. So those are the 4 players that got ACC player of the year votes. Obviously there were probably players better than those guys. Like the fact that Hunter Shallis didn't get a single ACC player of the year vote is kind of wild to me, especially when Chase Hunter and Maxime Reynaud each got some. But again, the Reynaud vote is probably from a Stanford guy. The Clemson vote or the Chase Hunter votes probably are from Clemson people. And so it's just it's about the who that's voting, not about, but it is odd to me that no Wake Forest people chose Hunter Shallis, but they might have just said, I legitimately think it's RJ or Cooper Flagg. And so I get that, but that's how that voting broke down. Really interesting stuff there. And then the ACC rookie of the year vote was pretty funny. Of the 54 votes, Cooper Flagg received 53 of them. And then Jeremiah Wilkinson from Cal got 1. Same kind of thing with Maxime Reynaud. That's clearly somebody from Cal voting for this dude, right? Because there are plenty of other freshmen that would and should have been chosen above Jeremiah Wilkinson. Whether it's any of Cooper Flagg's teammates, there are a bunch of really good freshmen at Duke. Whether it's Drake Powell or Ian Jackson, or Jaleel Bethea at Miami, who's going to be a dude as well. Like there's all these. So come on. Let's be serious with this, guys. Like if you're going to put in an asinine vote, you should be disqualified from voting for something like this. Like, I don't know how you in good faith legitimately vote that dude ACC preseason player of the year. But also the unanimity of everyone voting for Cooper Flagg is kind of interesting to me. Like I think back to the 18-19 season where the number 1 player in the class was RJ Barrett. Number 2 player in the class was Cam Reddish, both at Duke. Number 3 was Nasir Little. And number 4 was some dude named Zion Williamson. It was clear from Duke's very first game of the season that Zion was the guy, right? And so I'm assuming that Cooper Flagg is going to be the best freshman in this class, especially in the ACC, especially because Duke's going to rely on him so heavily. Like Carolina is not going to need to rely as heavily on Drake Powell and Ian Jackson, which honestly, that goes back to our first conversation. The fact that Carolina has the luxury of maybe bringing both those guys off the bench if they so choose. So part of it is opportunity for Cooper Flagg, but I'm surprised that nobody else got votes. And so everyone's just assuming that that's going to be what it's going to be. Doesn't always play out that way. We think it will be, but we're going to have to wait and see. Okay. Tony Bennett is the latest example of an ACC national champion head coach retiring. And boy, was that a shock on Thursday. This is an issue, and we got to get it fixed. It's all about the landscape of college athletics, in my opinion. We'll talk about it in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. How about some ACC regular champion odds? These odds might be changing based on some news we got on Thursday. But right now, Duke sits at plus 135, Carolina next at plus 370, followed by Wake at plus 1,000, Clemson plus 1,100, and then Virginia and Louisville tied at plus 1,500. I feel like maybe Virginia was like plus 1,400 and slid back after the Tony Bennett news. Curious to see how that adjusts based on once the markets really start to reckon with what's going on in Charlottesville there. So if you want to get in on any of that action, go check it all out at FanDuel.com. It's America's #1 sportsbook. 55-year-old national champion coach Tony Bennett from Virginia, out of the blue, retired on Thursday afternoon, stepped away today, Friday. Maybe it's already happened by the time you're listening to or watching this. There was a press conference for Virginia at 11 a.m. And Jeff Goodman, who I mentioned, or at least we talked about Field of 68 earlier in the show, was the one to break this. And I don't want to talk about this to get into it because of the Virginia and unpack the whole thing. I want to talk about it, because there's an ACC bent to this. That's an ongoing thing. There's a national college basketball bent to this that's ongoing. And then there's an NCAA-wide thing that's ongoing with this. And so that's why I want to talk about it. I do want to honor Coach Bennett. Virginia's style under him is difficult to watch, right? Like, I appreciate the commitment to it. I appreciate the methodology of it. I would never want to do it. I would never want to play in it. But in the same way that I can appreciate a pitcher's duel, I can appreciate how they found something that works. And beyond all the accolades that Coach Bennett has, by all intents and purposes, he's a great guy, a wonderful human being. I've never had the privilege of meeting him in person. If you're a regular on our show, you know that I am a man of faith. I'm a Christian. My understanding is that Coach Bennett is that as well. And so I'm grateful for that part of his story, just at a personal level, right? I don't want to foist that on any of you, but I'm just speaking for myself personally. So there is that. But what's interesting to me as we look at this, with Coach Bennett stepping away, this means at the ACC level, we have now had to replace a national champion head coach each of the last 4 seasons. Those are, obviously, in the 2021-22 season, Coach Davis replacing Coach Roy Williams. But the year after that, as we also well know, John Shire replacing Mike Krzyzewski. Last year, Red Autry replacing Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. And now Virginia's going to have to replace Tony Bennett. That's a whole bunch of national championships gone from this league. And with the retirement of Coach Williams, Coach K, Coach Boeheim, Jay Wright at Villanova, one of the things we've talked about, at least specifically in the ACC, is who's going to be the lead voice in the ACC. And for me, I've been saying Tony Bennett. I think that's the obvious choice. Virginia has been so good. They're kind of down right now from the heights that they were at in the late, 20 teens. But still, because of what a great coach he is, fierce competitor, but just a good person, like all of that for me is like, maybe Tony Bennett is the face of the ACC coaching world right now. And you think nationally, and it's like guys like him and Bill Self and Mark Few. But goodness gracious, he's gone. And now at the national level, there were only 6 active coaches who have won a national championship. That's Bill Self at Kansas. That's Tom Izzo at Michigan State. That's John Calipari, now at Arkansas. That's Dan Hurley at UConn. Rick Pitino, who's now at St. John's, and Scott Drew at Baylor. So for us in the ACC, that means we now have no active coaches that are national champion head coaches. Obviously, like Coach Davis won a national championship as an assistant coach, for example. But man, there is a championship void in our conference. And obviously, at this point, we don't know his Coach Bennett's reasons for stepping away. We do know from some reporting, I think Nicole Auerbach reported this on Thursday night, that it's not health related. That was from sources. My prediction, my guess, is that this is the current scape of college landscape related. Like, I am just done with NIL in the transfer portal and pay for play, because this come on, that's what it is, right? And I think that's why Jay Wright stepped away sooner than he might otherwise have done so. I think with Coach Williams and Coach Cade, they might have still done so, but I think it, certainly helped usher them out the door. Same with Coach Boeheim. Now Tony Bennett, who's only 55 years old, right? Man, and so it's sad for me. And what it all brings me to say is we got to get this fixed, because we've talked about it so much at like, boy, it's hard bringing rosters together, and how do you build a program? And we've looked at it from the fan side and from the player side and how difficult it is. But I don't know that we've appropriately taken enough stock of the difficulty this is on the coaching profession and on their families and dealing with that. Coach Bennett, to all accounts, is a big time family man. And I can't blame him at all if it's like, made a bunch of money in the NBA and coaching Washington State and now Virginia. I'm good. I'm going to go be with my family more. Dude, I could not blame him if that's why he's making this decision. So anyway, we'll find out on Friday. Again, you might already know by the time you're listening to or watching this, but there we go. Let's get to our weekend whip around to catch you up on what's happening in North Carolina Tar Heels sports, even though we don't have football. Let's start with women's soccer, who played on Thursday evening at home against Clemson, winning 6-0. Back to those shutouts that we have come to know and love. The ladies are now 14-2 on the season, 7-1 in ACC play. Last weekend, they beat Cal on the road, but then lost to Stanford, who was 7th at the time, now has moved up to 6th. So Carolina fell from number 2 to number 4 in the nation, not a big drop. In fact, the ACC has 3 of the top 4 teams in the nation. Heck, the state of North Carolina has 3 of the top 4 teams in the nation. Duke is 1, Wake 2, and Carolina 4. And then Stanford at 6. So the ACC has 4 of the top 6 schools nationally. That's pretty great. For the ladies, just 2 more regular season games left. And so we're winding down the regular season there. Field hockey, or excuse me, let me get back to men's soccer. I don't want to pass that. Beat William and Mary 5-2 on Tuesday. They play Pitt tomorrow, 6 p.m. at Dorrance Field, ACC Network Extra. This is a top 10 matchup. Carolina 7, Pitt 4. So make sure to tune in for that, which is great to get them at home. The men are 8-1-4 on the season, 3-1-1 in ACC play, and same for them. After this, just 2 more regular season games. Field hockey, 2 games this weekend against Wake today, Friday, 6 p.m. on ACC Network, and then Sunday hosting Old Dominion, 1 p.m. Eastern on ACC Network Extra. The Carolina and Northwestern keep flip-flopping back and forth between 1 and 2. They're the 2 best teams in the nation. Neither team loses, but they just keep flipping back and forth. The women are 10-0 on the season, 4-0 in ACC play, have allowed still just 4 goals all season long, and have scored 38 times. So they are outscoring their opponents 38-4. No opponent has scored more than 1 goal this season. It's absolutely bonkers. Volleyball has gone to Virginia this weekend, at Virginia Tech today, 6 on ACC Network Extra, and at Virginia on Sunday at 1 on ACC Network Extra. The ladies are 13-2, 5-1 in the ACC. Cross country at Princeton Invitational. Today, it's the last meet before the ACC Championships, which will come up on November 1st in Cary. So you can go check it out and cheer them on if you want to. Right now, the men are 11th nationally and the women 16th. All right, gang, great day to be together to unpack all of this stuff. Would love to know your thoughts on the Tony Bennett situation, on the coaching, stuff nationally, on the ACC preseason and all of that. Let me hear what you think about it. If you're not subscribed to the show on video and audio, man, make sure you do that so you don't miss a second of our show. Obviously, we're going to be back with you on Monday. There's nothing to really chat about this weekend unless there's breaking news. If you are not subscribed to the Locked On Tar Heels Discord channel, we'd love to have you there where we're talking Tar Heels all day, every day. It's a great place to be. Free to join, links in the show notes. If you'd like to go even deeper than that, you can join the Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program, which is an opportunity to text with me directly one-on-one. You get access to all my charts and data and stats, other perks as well. It's a great opportunity to help support the show. It's a 2-week free trial to check it out, see if you like it, and then just $5 a month after that. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Again, we'll be back together on Monday, but until then, peace.